I'm Steven Stomski with Stomski Racing. On this video we're going to talk about our SR067 and our SR068 exhaust bolt repair kit. The SR067 is our kit that we use on the Boxster and the Cayman engines, as well as the 996 and 997 street engines. Our SR068 is a kit that we use on the 996 and 997 GT3s. The two kits, the 067 and the 068, are very similar except for the two fixtures themselves because of the different bolt hole patterns on the exhaust, on the exhaust side of the heads on these engines. The kits come complete with the fixture, of course, as well as our thumb screws and our drill kit, which are drills, taps, extensions, the drill guides, and the miscellaneous hardware that you'll use to position the fixture exactly and predictably each time in order to effectuate a very easy and accurate repair of the broken bolts on these heads. The very first thing that we do when we're working on these engines is to make sure that you're wearing safety glasses. If you're doing this while the engine's in the car and you're working over your head, make sure you wear glasses. Make sure you have your safety glasses on, whether it's shrapnel coming down or chips or whatever it might be. Protect your eyes. That's critical. Also, make sure that the car is secured. If you're on a lift, that's great. Make sure that your lift is locked. Also, if you're on jack stands or whatever, make sure that everything is steady and secure. Safety first, very important. Today we're going to be demonstrating the SR068, which is essentially identical to the SR067 on a GT3 head. The tool and the application, whether it's on a GT3 engine or whether it's on a Boxster engine, for example, the process is identical. We just happen to have a GT3 head on the bench, and it's going to be a lot easier to demonstrate in the shop on a benched head than it is on working over our head on the lift on a car, on an engine that's still in the car. We're going to be demonstrating how to properly align and properly fix the jig so that you get a very true center, and that's what ultimately what we're trying to do here, is make sure that we're drilling in the very center of the broken bolt so that you can get a very accurate repair. We have a few different things in the kit that allow you to properly align the jig, including our SR065D drill guide, and the D stands for double. And what we'll do with this guide is this is going to allow us to get a pilot hole started in the broken stud. What we generally do is start off on the broken stud with a cutoff tool, clean it up, and if possible leave a couple millimeters standing proud of the head. This then will allow the D, the SR065D, to center around the 8mm broken bolt and provide a true center for the 3/16 pilot drill, which comes through the other side of the 065D, and start that pilot hole into the broken stud. The guide is essentially a self-centering guide so that it will help you keep it aligned and keep everything true. Our SR067 and our SR068 fixtures have been very accurately machined. They're CNC machined to very exact tolerances and specifications based upon a new factory head. Now, guarantee you're not going to be using these tools on a new factory head. As soon as the heads have left the factory, as soon as they've gone through a couple of heat cycles, anything's possible in the way that these heads are aligned and potentially misaligned, so that when you come in and you place the fixture, the very exact fixture, on a head that might not be exactly perfect, you are going to have to make some compensations. Our different fixtures and our different adapters in the kit allow you to align and very specifically align over the broken stud. You can use the hex bolts that we include, you can use the guide sleeves, you can use the thumb screws either with a Allen head socket head cap screw through it, or you can use it independently and it's threaded internally if you happen to have a stud or a bolt sticking up out of the exhaust side of the head. I've found that if you're able to lock down the fixture closest to the affected broken stud, you're able to align the jig much more accurately than if you are working on opposite ends of the fixture. Try to locate and try to be closer to the broken bolt, and you'll probably be able to align a little bit more predictably. The first thing we do when we come in on a broken bolt like this, if we can't get it out otherwise, is to use a cutoff tool such as a whizzer wheel to clean up the broken stud, the broken bolt. This does a couple of things for us. One is it allows us to get a square, flat surface, relatively square and relatively flat. It also gives us less material that we have to drill through. It makes the process a little quicker and it makes it a little bit more accurate, both of those things. I like to clean off the stud about 2 millimeters above, proud of the head itself, enough to give us something to center over with the 065D. Now remember, oftentimes these bolts don't break predictably. They'll bend, they'll twist, they'll contort, and if that's the case, then you have to take that in consideration when you're trying to drill into the center of it. It might be the center of the bent or broken bolt, but it might not be the center of the hole as it goes into the head. And that's what the critical thing is here, is that we make sure that we're drilling and repairing this in the center of the hole as it goes into the head, not the center of a bent or distorted bolt. Now we're at the head with our broken bolt, and we're going to come in with our whizzer wheel, our cutoff tool, and we're going to try to make this bolt, first of all, shorter and then also flatter and more even, so that when we come in with the pilot drill, it's a better surface to start with. We're going to spare you the sparks and the noise, and when we come back in, we should be at the next step. Now we come in here, we have to make, after we've trimmed down the broken bolt, we want to take care of a couple of things. First of all, clean off the head itself. Oftentimes you're going to have buildup and rust or corrosion or whatever. Clean up the head with a wire brush, or Scotch-Brite, or whatever it takes to get a nice clean surface, so that when you come in with the fixture, it has a nice mating surface. Secondly, check the depth of the holes as they go into the head. Here we're at about 22 or 21 millimeters. You want to make sure that you don't bore into the head past the length of the broken bolt and go through the head and into the water jacket or into the head or whatever it might be. Very critical. Mark your drill bits, mark whatever it takes to make sure that you're not going past where you want to drill. Now our next step is to present the fixture itself to the head, and without any of the thumb screws or anything in place, there's a fair amount of movement. And the first thing we do is we take our SR065D and use that to center over the broken bolt. And now we're fixed over the broken bolt, and you can see this will come down right over the bolt and almost flush with the head. And with the fixture in place, now you're very accurately aligned with the SR065D. Now that we have our SR065D indexed, we can come ahead with any of the other components that we have in our kit and anchor the fixture in place. In this case, we're going to use our thumb screws with socket head cap screws in place. And again, we're working as close to the affected bolt as we can, and thus we're getting the best alignment that we can, and keeping things as true and accurate as we're allowed to do. Now, let's cinch the bolts down, and we are anchored. Now we can go ahead and secure the drill guide in place, and to do that you have two button head cap screws to choose from. Usually I use the longer one, but since we're just going to be dimpling the bolt and just giving us a start for the pilot hole, I'm going to go ahead and use the shorter of the two, and just go ahead and secure that. You don't have to get too crazy with it, and lock it down. If I'm using the other drill guides, the 3/16 and the 17/64, almost always I use the longer one, the longer button head cap screw, because it gives a better anchor, it makes it more secure. One thing that we need to talk about is the drill bits themselves, and in the kit we include right-hand drill bits. You have a choice to use left-hand drill bits or right-hand drill bits. We look to use on these kits the right-hand drill bits because, first of all, if you use a left-hand drill bit, because you've got a drill guide holding the broken bolt in place, the left-hand drill bit is not going to want to extract the broken stud or bolt. So we generally just use the right-hand bits because, first of all, they're easier to find, they stay chucked up better, and they're less expensive than the left-hand drill bits, and just easier to replace when you need to. Now what I've done now is I've measured the thickness of our fixture in the drill guide and added the distance into the head of about 20 millimeters and put the drill bit into the drill to the limit of that combined height, so that it will automatically limit itself and not go deeper into the head than what we want. We'll change that a little bit as we go along, but you'll get the idea. Another thing I like to do is to always use some kind of lubricant or some kind of coolant, so that when you're drilling, you're helping to clear chips and to keep the bit somewhat cool. Let the drill do its work, but don't skate across the top. You don't want to work harden your material. As you go ahead, make sure you're continuing to clear the chips, and make sure that at least at this point here, all we're going to do is just provide a dimple so that we can come along next with our true 3/16 guide, drill guide. As you look down in here, you can tell that we have a very accurate and centered pilot hole started. If things don't look right, this is the time to make corrections, not after you've gone off center. Look around, figure out why you aren't drilling true and dead on, and make corrections as you need to. We look good, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to put in our 3/16 drill guide. And the reason why I want to use this guide is because it is hardened steel, unlike our L65D, which is just stainless steel. And in this case, I am going to use the full-length button head cap screw to get a full purchase. And because we're a little bit higher now, you have to take that into consideration, and it will work in your favor, but take that into consideration when you come in with your drill. And again, keep flushing and keep clearing the chips. So now we've gone ahead and completely drilled the pilot hole, and we're going to remove the 3/16 bushing. First the button head cap screw, and then the bushing. Once again, get a look down into the hole and see that everything's looking good, and it is. Now we're going to go ahead, you can clean out that hole a bit if you want. If there seems to be any shrapnel, go ahead and spray it clean or use some air to clean it to get yourself ready to go ahead with the 17/64. And we go ahead and slip that one in place. And once again, secure that with the button head cap screw, and again, using the longer screw to hold it in place. And secure it well. And we come in this time with the 17/64 bit, but because it's a longer bit, we can't do the same trick with limiting it by the chuck, but measure out, and you can put tape on the drill bit or whatever it might be to mark the depth that you're going to want to go into the head, and to make sure that you don't over drill and go through the head. In this case, also remember that the drill bit is probably going to want to cut a little bit more quickly and a little bit more easily than it was cutting when you were using the 3/16 bit. So just be a little bit more careful in the process. And keep the drill guide snug. It might loosen up as you start to take out some of the broken bolt. Now I'm pretty sure we're right to where we need to be. I'm going to go ahead and remove the 17/64 drill guide. After I take out the button head cap screw, and we'll see where we are by removing our fixture as well. We can get a look at the progress. You want to blow the hole clean, clear it out as best you can. Now as you come into the hole will look fairly smooth on the bore because the threads, the female threads, are going to be filled with the male threads from the broken bolt. If you're lucky enough, you can catch an edge with a dental pick of the broken bolt, and then, not that it's critical, but just to illustrate the point, you can unwind the remaining thread as it stays in the bore. And that gives you an idea of how accurately you can repair this. And that hole doesn't need to be chased and doesn't need to be cleaned anymore. It's perfect. It'll take a new stud without any issue, or a new bolt without any issue. Now you still may want to chase it, and you can put the jig back in place, use your tap guide, and go ahead and use the included 8mm tap and clean that out, but you're now good to go. Once you've got all the shrapnel and the threads out of the hole, I do recommend that you chase the hole. Line the tap properly. You're not needing to cut threads at all. Just chase the hole and clean up the threads, and you'll have a much nicer shot to get a clean bolt into there from there. Throughout the process, be safe. Wear safety glasses. Make sure the car is secure. Make sure everything's anchored properly. Take your time. Let the fixture do the work for you. Let all the accessories in the kit help you align it properly. Take your time when you're drilling. Take your time using the bits. Let them do the work for you. It'll make the job a lot easier. Don't overstress it. Don't overstress the tools. A couple of points to keep in mind here, and on some applications you might have some issues with interference with your drill, the drill itself, as you're going up to drill out the hole, and it depends, like on some 996, on the furthest one back, you might have some interference issues, in which case then you might want to get a longer drill bit, and certainly not anything this long, but a bit that might be about twice as long as what we include in the kit. It depends upon your application, it depends whether you need it or not, but that's something to keep in mind as your application might determine. Certainly when we're doing it on the bench, on a head, we don't have those issues arise, but when you're faced with it, you might come up against that kind of a problem. A couple of other things: if you come across an improperly performed repair, or something really goes south with the head and you need to time cert it, we do have our time cert kits, our SR066 kits, which are basically an 8mm time cert. We've got a couple other things in there. A P drill guide, which allows you to use the time cert taps and things like that with our fixture. So it's a good adaptation to use time cert with our kits and to really recover from what could have been a really screwed up repair by somebody else, presumably. Take your time, use the fixture in all the accessories in the kit to make sure that you're properly lined up. If you allow the guides to guide you and the fixture to do its job, every time you'll be able to get this result. You'll be able to get a very, very accurate, very, very correct repair of what could otherwise be a mess. Appreciate you tuning in. See you next time.